Welcome back. Civilians in Gaza are facing a hunger crisis. The UN warns there's a risk of famine occurring there in the next 6 months if the situation on the ground doesn't change. Half of Gaza is now facing emergency levels of food insecurity, and about a quarter of Gaza's total population, more than 500,000 people, have depleted their food supplies and are facing starvation. That's according to a United Nations report that was released late last week. The World Food Program says that only 10% of the food required has entered Gaza since the October 7th terror attack against Israel. International aid groups like World Central Kitchen are working to provide meals and food supplies, but getting the aid into Gaza is complicated. World Central Kitchen founder, Chef José Andrés, was in South Gaza last week to help in the aid work. Chef José Andrés, the founder of World Central Kitchen, joins me now live to talk about his work there. First of all, Chef, I'm so glad that you're back safe after what must have been a very difficult and risky journey. You did get the chance to distribute thousands of meals in the past week in Gaza, millions across the Middle East in the last 2 months. What kind of need did you see for food and water just in the area you were in? How dire is the situation right now?
Well, World Central Kitchen has been able to do more than 12 million meals so far. But in a way, this is a drop of water in an ocean of need. I was able only to visit Rafah, which is in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, and there the situation is already real. But the real problem is anywhere north of Rafah. What's happened in Khan Yunis, what's happening in Gaza City, and what's happening anywhere north all the way to Israel. The truth is that the need is real. It's not enough food getting into Gaza itself, and it's not enough food and water and medicines reaching the people in the north, hundreds of thousands, that they are in real need of food. So the situation is really as bad as everybody is listening. We need more humanitarian aid trucks reaching into Gaza, and then I think everybody will agree with me that in Gaza we need a ceasefire or hopefully an end of the hostilities so we are able to reach everybody in need. Even if the hostilities end today, still we are weeks or months ahead of hundreds of trucks only with food and water, besides everything else they need, to make sure that we will not have a real famine in many parts of the Gaza Strip.
I mean, talk a little bit more about the distribution effort here and the challenges that well-intentioned aid groups must face, right? It'd be one thing if you had enough food to feed everyone, which is obviously an open question. But given the way the situation currently stands, as it is now, is it possible to even get the food to the people who need it the most?
The reality is that is very complicated. When I was there, it was complicated to go north. I know that many different organizations of the UN were trying only to reach the few hospitals that still remain active inside Gaza, only to feed the people inside the hospitals that are also becoming temporary kind of camps for all the displaced people from the northern parts of Gaza. So you have to imagine, you are trying to deliver food in an active zone where shots are happening by planes, by missiles, by rockets, different groups, Israeli and Hamas, shooting at each other. And imagine humanitarian aid trying to reach those people. That's why we've seen that many people has lost their lives only trying to cover the basic needs of people. And on top of that, you have many people that are hungry, that are in need, that they have no money, that even if they have money, is no banks that they can have access to that money they may have left in the banks. Therefore, when you see humanitarian trucks trying to reach some hospitals and some temporary camps, what happens? That you have those people doing block roads in the middle of a road that on paper is safe, and they will take that humanitarian aid. Why? Because they're trying to feed their children. We all need to agree that food and water is a human right. Therefore, if we make it complicated by many reasons to reach those people in need, we are facing a true issue of hunger, a true issue of starvation, and where many people even immediately in the south in Rafah, what you could argue is technically still the safest place. If there we have problems delivering food, imagine anywhere north of Rafah.
Right. And maybe just quickly explain how you were even able to get in to Rafah, which you mentioned of anywhere in Gaza is perhaps the most safe, but not safe. How difficult was that? Did you have to work with the governments to allow access there? Did you kind of push your way in? How were you able to accomplish that?
Well, all of the above. I mean, I've been in many situations myself. I'm between everybody. I will say everybody. Yes, I was able to join the team member, Sam Block, who is the leader of World Central Kitchen inside Gaza, and then partnering with UN, different agencies, we were able, obviously, to this day, every day, to try to deliver food, especially to the north. So the situation is complicated. I will say that many people are blaming each other, but you know, it takes a village to solve the problems. This is everybody can do something to do more, to do better. And this includes the Egyptians, this includes the Israelis, this includes the Palestinians running the border. Is many reasons why the humanitarian aid is not reaching the people in need. That's why the ceasefire should be happening soon. I think everyone that is being taken by Hamas should be sent back to Israel safe. I think everybody will agree that also no children in Gaza should be going to bed thinking that bombing or explosion or a missile is going to hit the place they live. At the end, this is trying to bring the best of humanity forward. Nobody should be killing anybody. Everybody should be respecting everybody. The people taking hostages, they should go back to Israel. And at the same time, we could agree that nobody in Gaza, especially in hospitals and in camps, nobody should be afraid of going to bed thinking that a strike is about to happen. Food and water is a human right, a universal human right. And every children, every woman, every elderly in Israel, in Palestine, in Gaza, in Syria, in Lebanon, should go down at night thinking that maybe that's the last night they're going to be alive.
Well, you mentioned a drop of water in an ocean of need. José Andrés, thank you for even doing that little bit and for all you do around the world to help those in need. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.